I always thought that the night forest was simply the absence of light, just empty space where the sun had stopped reaching. But already on the first meters of this road, I understood that the darkness here is alive. It does not simply lie between the trees, passive and still. It moves as if it breathes, as if it has lungs hidden somewhere in the earth below. The motorcycle shakes violently on the roots. The headlamp tears from the gloom scraps of wet ground, twisted branches, thick fog that seems to cling to everything it touches. And everything would be ordinary. Everything would be just another night ride through the woods, if not for that feeling. That deep, primal feeling in the pit of my stomach. As if someone is walking nearby, step in step, matching my pace perfectly, but is not visible. And when the light of the headlights slides between the trunks, cutting through the darkness like a knife, it seems there is something stepping back, retreating just beyond the reach of the light, as if hiding, as if waiting, as if choosing its moment carefully. I catch myself on the thought that I don't want to look into the mirror, into the small rearview mirror attached to my handlebars, because too often it seems that there is something there. Too often it seems that something is staring back at me from the darkness behind. When the road under me crunched like old bones being crushed, like something ancient and brittle giving way, I heard a sound. Not a branch that broke under some animal's weight. Not an animal moving through the underbrush. It was similar to a sharp inhalation, sudden and desperate, like when a person hides behind something and then suddenly sees you too close, far too close for comfort. I looked back quickly, my heart already pounding, but behind me there was only a layer of steam rising from the exhaust pipe, ghostly white in the darkness. But the sound repeated again, closer this time, louder, more distinct. The trees stood too straight, too perfectly motionless, as if the forest itself held its breath, waiting for something to happen. I thought that it was fatigue, just exhaustion playing tricks on my mind, that I was winding myself up with my own fears, that my imagination was running wild in the darkness. But then the headlamp for a moment caught something light between the trunks, something that stood out against the blackness. Not eyes reflecting light, not an animal frozen in the beam. It was something else, something that made my blood run cold. A hand? No, it couldn't be. Too high off the ground, too long and thin, too unnatural in its proportions. And it disappeared so quickly, vanishing like smoke, that I did not have time to understand anything. Did not have time to process what I had actually seen. Did not even have time to be properly afraid. The motorcycle hums low and steady, slowly eating up the rough road, but above the mechanical hum I begin to hear something else. Something that doesn't belong. A measured knocking sound, rhythmic and deliberate. My pulse? No, this is different. These were steps. Slow, heavy, deliberate steps, but perfectly synchronized with how I bypassed the holes and roots in the road. As if the one who is walking behind me knows this road intimately, has traveled it 1,000 times and repeats my exact route, but in a different way. In a wrong way, because every third step sounded closer than the previous one. Impossibly closer. I for a moment released the gas, let the engine slow, listened carefully with every fiber of my being, and the sound also stopped. Instantly, without any delay or echo. In the air hung silence, so thick and heavy that it seemed it could cut the lungs, could suffocate me right there on the road. I wanted to add gas, wanted to speed away from this place, but it seemed to me that if I moved, it would also move. If I ran, it would chase. I froze. It froze with me, and in this terrible silence I felt how something was watching me, studying me carefully, measuring each of my breaths, learning the rhythm of my fear. Branches scatter into shadows under the light of the headlamp, creating a chaotic dance of darkness and light. But suddenly one shadow moves not where it should. It moves against the natural flow, and not with the wind that whispers through the trees, and not from the movement of the motorcycle. It moves in a way that defies explanation. It moves toward me, deliberately, with purpose. I slide my gaze left, forcing myself to look even though every instinct screams not to. And for a second it seems to me that someone is running parallel to my road. Fast, too fast for any person. Faster than anything human should be able to move. Steps are not audible. There is no sound of feet hitting earth, but the dark streak between the trees flickers like a corrupted video frame, like reality itself is glitching. I don't want to look, desperately don't want to see what's really there, but my eyes are drawn there by themselves, pulled by some horrible fascination. And then the headlamp again grabs something solid. A silhouette, a figure, a shape that almost resembles something human. A moment, just a fraction of a second, and it dissolves behind the trunk of a massive tree. I squeeze the handlebars until my knuckles turn white, feeling how cold gathers between my shoulder blades, spreading down my spine like ice water. I hear a whisper cutting through the sound of the engine. At first I think that it is the wind moving through the branches, but the wind does not speak. The wind does not form words, and this speaks. This whispers things. I do not recognize the words, cannot make out their meaning. They stretch unnaturally, merge together, as if someone pronounces them through water, through some thick liquid medium, through something that distorts and corrupts. I add gas again, twisting the throttle hard, but the whisper does not fall behind, keeps pace effortlessly. It seems to roll after me on the ground, to press against the rear wheel like a physical presence. And the scariest part, the thing that makes my skin crawl, is that sometimes it sounds as if it comes from inside my helmet, as if someone is speaking directly into my ear, their lips almost touching, closer with each passing second, closer. And when I think that now I will hear my name spoken in that horrible voice, when I brace myself for that violation, the whisper breaks off, sharply, abruptly, as if someone cut it with scissors, severed it cleanly. And in this sudden silence, I understand that this is worse than the whisper itself. This silence is expectant, hungry. The road becomes even more torn and damaged, almost impassable in places. Roots break out of the ground violently, erupting from the earth as if someone's fingers are trying to tear free from below, as if something buried is trying to claw its way to the surface. And one of them I almost clearly see moving, slightly, subtly, as if it is opening something under the ground, creating a passage, as if preparing to grab. I fly over it, the motorcycle briefly airborne, but I feel how the wheel seems to catch on something as it lands. No, not a tree root, not wood, fabric, skin, something soft and cold and wrong, something that should not be there on this road. I look back over my shoulder, risk a glance behind, and see that the space behind is empty. But that root now looks as if it is closer than it was, closer than it has any right to be, closer than the laws of nature should allow. I want to blame everything on fatigue, on my exhausted mind playing tricks, but then I again see the same shadow between the trees, that dark streak, and it is now no longer just running alongside. It is approaching. It is moving toward the road, moving directly toward me with clear intent. I don't know where this fear came from, don't know when it settled into my bones, but suddenly I understand the main rule of this forest, understand it with absolute certainty, not to turn around, not to look back, because if you turn around, if you give in to that urge, you will see that which cannot be seen, that which should not be perceived by human eyes, that which waits exactly for this moment of weakness, that which exists only in the moment when you acknowledge it. The motor roars louder as I accelerate, but the noise seems muffled and distant, as if someone covered the entire forest with a heavy blanket, as if the sounds are being absorbed by the darkness itself. And behind my back there are no longer just steps. Something moves quickly, unevenly, with a disturbing rhythm, as if on 4 limbs instead of 2, as if on something that was once arms and legs but is no longer quite either. And every time I bypass a hole or root, it seems to catch up for just a moment, closing the distance. I feel its presence so sharply, so intensely, as if it breathes directly into the back of my head, as if I can feel its breath on my neck. But I will not turn. I will not look back. I repeat this to myself like a mantra, like a prayer. I will not turn. The beam of the headlamp becomes narrower, the cone of light shrinking, as if the forest is squeezing it from the sides, compressing it, as if the darkness is advancing, claiming territory. And here I hear breathing, hoarse, sick, labored, and too close, far too close. It is not behind me. It is somewhere to the side, lurking in the shadow just beyond the light. Someone seems to be breaking through the trees parallel to me, forcing their way through the dense undergrowth. And from time to time I hear branches crack and snap at human height, at the level where a person's shoulders would be, but the movements are too fast, too sharp, too inhuman in their violence. Trying to slow down, I realize that I am doing something stupid, making a terrible mistake. The thing that breathes nearby, The thing that stalks me moves slower when I am faster, almost like a predator that does not want to show itself, that prefers to remain hidden, that is waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But when I stop, it will also stop, and it will wait patiently until I make a mistake, until fear makes me look back. I hear how it swallows air with a wet, rattling sound, as if trying to pull in my smell, as if memorizing my scent, as if learning everything about me. On the road ahead, I see a dark spot spreading across the path. Ground? Shadow? A puddle of something? But when the headlamp touches it, illuminates it directly, the spot retreats quickly, as if it is alive, as if it is avoiding the light, repelled by it. I slide past it and hear a sound that freezes my blood, a wheeze that transforms into something similar to a voice. Not human, but not entirely animal either. Something in between, something wrong. It seems to try to repeat my breathing pattern, to imitate my sounds with disturbing accuracy. It becomes scary to realize that it is learning, that it is studying me. The steps are now uneven, tangled, confused, but all of them are closer. Each one brings it nearer, and when I think that it is already almost in the darkness next to me, close enough to touch, the voice suddenly whispers so clearly that I almost break instinctively. "Don't look back," it says, and the voice is definitely not mine, not human in any real way, but familiar, too familiar, as if it has been listening to me for a long time, as if it has almost become me, as if it is wearing my voice like a stolen coat. I begin to notice that the trees seem to lean forward when I pass beneath them, their trunks bending at impossible angles, as if they also reach down to see what is behind me, curious and hungry, as if the forest is one vast organism and it is watching me through 1,000 eyes hidden in the bark. The air becomes thicker, harder to breathe, syrupy and oppressive. The light of the headlamp constantly fades for a moment, dims and flickers, as if something walks in front of it repeatedly, but too quickly to see clearly. My heart beats so loudly that it seems it echoes through the entire forest, that every creature can hear it. And then I hear a sound that makes me grip the handlebars even tighter. Long, low, deliberate, as if someone is running a claw slowly along the bark of a tree. On the right, on the left, and a little behind, closer. I know that it almost touches the ground now, that it moves low and predatory, and it now moves completely differently than before. Slowly, confidently, patiently, as if it already knows that I will not turn off this road, as if it simply follows behind me without hurrying, because it knows I have nowhere to go, because it knows this forest and I do not. The road narrows dramatically, the trees closing in from both sides, and the forest becomes darker, the shadows deeper and more absolute. I suddenly notice on the ground my own shadow cast by the headlight. It trembles and dances from the vibration of the motorcycle, but that is not what catches my attention. Next to it appears another shadow, a second silhouette. It touches the edge of the light for just a moment, visible for a heartbeat, and I see that it is too big, unrealistically big, impossibly large, and it grows steadily larger, as if something from the darkness is approaching the road from deep within the trees, as if it is emerging from the very heart of the forest. I raise my head slowly, force myself to look up, and in the treetops something moves with fluid grace, jumps from branch to branch with perfect precision. Fast, silent, unnaturally fast and controlled. It follows from above, tracking me from the canopy. Surrounds me, the headlamp beam shines between the trees ahead, and for a second, just one terrible second, I see something light, something pale, similar to a face hanging in the darkness, but distorted, elongated, as if stretched into an unnatural shape by cruel hands, as if something tried to become human but forgot how, as if something is wearing humanity like a mask that does not quite fit. It seems to me that the temperature is falling dramatically right as I ride, dropping degree by degree. My breath comes out white and visible, condensing in clouds. The cold bites at my fingers even through my gloves, although the night was not supposed to be so frosty, although it was mild when I started. The light of the headlamp keeps dimming steadily, growing weaker, and it seems to me that it weakens from someone's gaze, from someone staring directly at the source of the light, from something trying to drain it, to suck the life from it. And here I feel something that makes my stomach drop. Movement under the helmet. as if a thin, cold breath strokes the back of my neck, touches my bare skin. I almost snap completely, almost lose control, desperately trying not to tear off the helmet while still moving, fighting the urge. In my ears again the whisper returns, but now it sounds completely close. So close that I can see how the sound seems to make the air tremble right in front of my face. Run. It whispers urgently, and the voice is definitely not mine. It is similar to something that copies, that mimics, but cannot do it correctly. Something that is learning human speech but does not understand it, does not comprehend the meaning behind the words. The headlamp slides forward, illuminates the path ahead, but to my left something moves almost at the level of my wheels. It runs low to the ground, fast and fluid, but does not touch the earth. It does not make contact with anything solid. It glides above it, hovers, as if swimming through the air itself. I catch it with the corner of my eye, see it in my peripheral vision, and paralyzing horror pierces through me like a knife. It is a body without a clear form, without definition. It seems to consist of shadows woven together, but sometimes between them appear patches of something solid, something real in the unreal. Skin, hair, bones? Something genuine mixed with the impossible. It rushes nearby, keeps perfect pace with me, but as if it does not see me at all, as if it navigates by sound alone. It listens to my breathing, follows the rhythm of my pulse, tracks my heartbeat. And when instead of a normal breath I swallow air sharply, when fear makes me gasp, it repeats this with disgusting, hoarse accuracy, mimics it perfectly, and I suddenly understand with horrible clarity what is happening. It is trying to become me. It is studying how I breathe, how I move, how I exist in this world. And when it learns well enough, when it masters every detail, what then? What happens when it knows me better than I know myself? I see ahead a break in the trees, a gap in the endless wall of trunks. It means the forest ends. It means escape. I almost feel relief washing over me, almost allow myself to breathe properly. But at this very moment, at this instant of hope, the darkness behind me tightens and condenses, as if making a last desperate dash, as if it understands that time is running out. I hear fast, too fast steps that no longer hide themselves, that no longer attempt stealth. The ground groans and shudders under the weight of something massive, something heavy. I do not turn around. I refuse to look. I just burst forward with everything the motorcycle has, twist the throttle to its limit. The headlamp cuts through the darkness like a blade, and the road finally carries me out of the forest, spits me out into the open. The world opens up suddenly, becomes more spacious, lighter, less oppressive. But even now, even as the motorcycle flies on the open path, even as the trees fall away behind me, I hear one thing. On the edge of my helmet, there where the wind touches and whistles, there is a quiet, broken whisper, barely audible but unmistakable. I am still here.